In the light settings, there's not a lot of options on this vehicle, but it does have the headlight off delay, which is set to 30 seconds, headlight illumination on approach, but you do have to use the key to unlock the doors for this light to turn on. Headlights with wipers, auto dim high beams, and then you have the daytime running lights and the flashlights with lock. So all these you can toggle on or off here. This is the headlight switch, and pretty straightforward. There's off, parking light, headlights on, and then automatically turn on the headlights. This is for your fog lights. You toggle them on or off. There's a little indicator here letting you know when they're on or off. So you can see that on, off. There's also a dimmer switch here. Now this is for the interior gauges, but also if you pull it all the way up, it'll bring it really bright, but also turn on the interior lights as well. So it has these little kind of like snaps up in two different positions there. It does have a proximity key, but it doesn't sense the key and start turning on lights when you get close to the vehicle. When you hit the unlock button, it will turn on the lights if you have that setting turned on. Now, if you turn the headlight switch to the complete off position, you don't have any tail lights, but you do have these fairly bright lights that are shining here in the front. You have this halo around the headlight, and then these daytime running lights, which are very bright. Could potentially mistake these as headlights, possibly, but it's a type of vehicle where it doesn't have any tail lights, and you do have a lot of light here in the front when the headlight switch is in the off position. When you turn the headlight switch to the parking lights, you can turn on or off the fog lights. So that's another thing that might mistake. You might think you have your headlights on when you don't, when you have it in the parking lights and then the fog lights are on, because you have a lot of light there in the front. Okay, so the parking lights are these basically the same thing as we saw before with the headlights off. We have the lights here on the ends, the halos, but we also have these amber side markers now are on here on the front. Tail lights are now on. You have this little red side marker here on the side of them. That's part of the tail light. And these are nice bright LED tail lights. Nice, sharp, easily seen. Look pretty cool. Tag lights are also on now. Turn signal here in the front is an amber LED, and it's right below that white daytime running light. So it just kind of illuminates right under here. And it dims that light a lot. So that way it doesn't overpower the turn signal and so that people don't see it. Probably should just turn it off, I suppose, because you can still kind of, I mean, you can see the turn signal, but it's not really that bright. There's no turn signal indicator on the side mirror or on the side of the vehicle at all. So you can't see anything like that. But it does have a red turn signal. Just kind of fills in the center part of the tail light. And this is also the brake light as well, which the brake light does have a third brake light right there at the top of the tire. And then the reverse lights are integrated in the center of the tail lights. So let's turn on, okay, so there's the fog lights with the parking lights, no headlights yet. Now we turn on the actual headlights. So there's the low beams there. And turn off and on the fog lights so you can see the difference here. Okay, so now you can see the fog lights are quite bright. They're right here in the bumper, and they are a reflector. So it's a little reflector housing there. And then the headlights are a projector. So inside of that halo is a projector housing there. And I like the way that it has that round halo, kind of keeping the Jeep look, you know. Now if I step back here, so I'm 6 feet tall looking directly at the headlights. This one right here looks like it is a little bit adjusted, a little bit too high. And it's not uncommon for new vehicles to have headlights that are slightly out of adjustment. We'll see what it looks like going down the road. But most of the light, if I dip the camera down, is below the cutoff, which is down here. So it's about 2.5, 3 feet off the ground. That's where the cutoff is. But this one is a little bit bright. So now let's switch to the high beams here. And the high beams turn off the fog lights. So you can see the fog lights are now off. And now we have just basically the same, it looks like the same thing. But it is the same projector. It is just brighter. I think that what it is there's a second light that shines through that projector, but we'll see what it looks like going down the road. But basically, it looks like the same here in the front. The cargo light is basically just a single light here in the middle, and it kind of shines on the seat a little bit, and it's fairly bright. I mean, that helps out, but just having a single light like there it should be bright. I think it would be a lot better if it had more than one light, maybe utilizing this space right here, because you can see there's shadows, you know, and also right close to the seat, it's very dark. So yeah, it's okay, I guess, to some degree because of the brightness. But and also if you lift up this bottom part right here, it's not going to shine in there. So it has its limitations. Just having a single light, I think it should be a lot better, especially on an off-road vehicle, or off-road capable vehicle. If you're in the middle of nowhere and you need, you know, it's best to have better light, because it has been a problem using my equipment, you know. So I have this right here, I lift it up, and then it's dark in there, you know, because the light is coming from that direction only. So there's no puddle lights or approach lights or anything. The inside of the back door is completely dark, no lights whatsoever. Now the back seat has lights there in the center. You can see it's one on each side. And they do a fairly decent job of illuminating these seats, and even in the floorboard. Even with the black interior, it does a decent job here. Now we do have a little, I don't know if you can tell, there's a little light just below the power window switch to help you find it in the dark. So that's nice. But this compartment right here is dark, this little storage compartment. But yeah, but right in here, and the seats are all illuminated fairly well from those two little pinpoint lights. And a little bit of this light from the cargo area kind of spills in this area too. So the inside of the front door, there's no puddle lights, no approach lights, anything like that. For an off-road vehicle, that's kind of surprising, I guess. The door switches or door lock here are illuminated. And then the side mirror adjustments are also illuminated. You have floorboard illumination, that's nice. And then the lights right there illuminate more in the lap area. There's no lights coming from the front though. It's all coming from this angle here. And it does a decent job in most areas. So having these bright lights in here right above my shoulder, it does a decent job of illuminating where I need to see. So if I had a map or if I had something I'm holding, it does a decent job of illuminating it here without the light getting in my face, you know. So let's go ahead and shut the door, and the interior lights will fade out, and you can see what we're left with. Now the floorboard illumination does dim down quite a bit. I don't know if you can tell, but there is still some floorboard illumination. It just dims. All the buttons on the steering wheel are backlit. Here to the left of the steering column, all that's backlit. All the screens look good. Here for the gauges and the center screen there. Now I'm going to use the dimmer switch here to the left of the steering column, just kind of cycle through. So you can see it. There's the full blast, which also turns on the interior lights. Bringing it back down to the first click, we'll bring it in back into night mode, and then we can scroll down and go all the way down to the bottom. So it's the backlit buttons and the screens that it adjusts. So it's not just the gauges there. So this screen looks pretty good. Now if I put the camera on, so you can see the backup camera, it works well at night. The reverse lights could be brighter. There's times, so you can see right now that it's mostly red back there, right? Because the brake lights are actually brighter than the reverse lights. So if the brake lights were a little bit brighter, I mean the reverse lights, I think it would be better. But you know, especially for an off-road vehicle, it would help out. But the camera itself is fine. It's just the reverse lights aren't all that great. Okay, so I just turned the brightness really high on my camera so you can see what's going on. It's kind of dark in this area. Cup holders do have a little bit of illumination, which is pretty cool. The camera, I had to turn it up real high to see it, but with your eyes, you can see it a little bit. A little illumination shining through the bottle there. Kind of neat. This center console does have a light in the bottom part, the large open area. The top part does not. There's no light there. All right. Glove compartment. No light whatsoever in the glove compartment. So not all that great. So these lights here, so we have these individual tap lights we can turn those on individually, right? So let's say we turn this light on here and see if we can see. Yeah, so we can see in the glove compartment using that light. Wish I had its own light, but at least we can see there. Now this right here, if we lift this back, the light does shine in this top part that doesn't have a light. So that's not too bad, I guess. Above the rearview mirror, which is the manual day and night mode on the rearview mirror, there is some backlit buttons here for roadside assistance and also the retractable top. We have illuminated HomeLink garage door opener controls here, and then a mirror with nice bright lights. A little bit harsh lights, I guess, for the driver, you know, right in their face. But yeah, it could be a little bit softer, but that's just the way it is for that kind of light, that kind of mirror, I guess. Maybe on the passenger side have that harsh light, but maybe a little bit of a softer light here on the driver's side probably would be a better idea. So there's the headlight pattern on a fence, and you can see there's a cutoff there. There's the high beams, there's the low beams. So I have the automatic high beams turned on now. We'll see how they work. Okay, so trying to get a steady shot on this camera is going to be a challenge since this vehicle's kind of rough riding. But yeah, there's a lot of traffic out too. So the low beams are looking okay. I can see on the sides of the road. There is supposed to be, yeah, there's a little bit of a shadow on the oncoming lane, but not really too much. I mean, it seems like that. Yeah, it's just a little far from the vehicle, but it is there. But I think that driver's side headlight is adjusted a little bit too high. But yeah, it seems like there's just a mild shadow on the oncoming lane. But yeah, the headlights on the side of the road close to the vehicle. Turn off the fog lights for right now so you can see what the low beams look like. All right, wait for the road to clear up a little bit so we can test out these high beams. But yeah, the low beams are looking okay. But we have to have a clear road to test out the high beams. All right, so there's the high beams. So yeah, I can see the trees in the distance. It does look like there's an additional light turning on. Side of the road's illuminated. There's no patchiness. So yeah, these are pretty decent. I mean, I can see the distance is really good. On the road is really good, and off on the sides of the road. But there's definitely an additional light turning on through the same projector, because I can still see the cutoff for the low beams is still there, and then that additional light turns on for the distance and also the height. So yeah, that automatic high beams seem to be working fine. So yeah, I can see the trees in the distance. They're not like super wow headlights, but they are pretty good. I mean, they are pretty good. I would say they're adequate headlights for sure. Yeah, they illuminate everywhere. On the sides. I'm going to turn the fog lights back on so when the low beams turn on, we'll have those again. But yeah, these are looking pretty decent. The distance is good. It's evenly lit. There's no patchiness on the road. We only have 2 projectors. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the way the light is spread out everywhere. And the low beams are pretty good, especially with the fog lights on, because you can see close to the vehicle. I have the fog lights on now. But yeah, it's looking pretty decent. I think these headlights, I mean, I would be happy with them. No problem with these headlights. They're not like super great, but they are definitely adequate, and I can see. I think they would work fine in off-road conditions, on-road, off-road, all that stuff. And the automatic high beams seem to be working fine as well. So yeah, these are pretty good.